This is a book review of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by Stan Lee and John Buscema. This book came out in 1986. There's the back cover, and it's about 150 pages in there. I'm just going to open it up so you can see the spine. It's just standard glued. It's still perfectly okay. 1986, now it's 30 odd years. It's quite a few years ago, and it's still in reasonable condition. Now it's no colour in it. It's all black and white. And what has it got? Lots of great illustrations and, of course, how to do things. You've got I love the way that got a nice sketch of do. And then next, there's always an amazing sketch. You think, wow, really? From one to that? That's quite a big jump. Anyway. But it's, of course, slightly old-fashioned. That's the one thing about this. I mean, but the principles, all the ideas there, you've got the bit where you've got the sketch, you just draw the lines, and then you've got the, obviously, building up the body, the structure to it, and then adding more and more to make a complete figure. Now, it's, of course, all that is just as valid now as it used to be. Drawing the human head, there's great examples, lovely examples, obviously, Mole Man and various other characters, all expressions. But, of course, this is one approach. Now, you could all just as easily brought out a book, How to Draw the Comics the Marvel Way, by Steve Ditko, and it would have been very, very different. So every artist, this is John Buscema, and obviously a few other artists are in here as well, examples of their work, but it's a style that maybe, it's other people will have a completely different approach. So you can't really go with this in terms of this is the definitive, only this is the Marvel way, because clearly that isn't the case. And if you look at modern Marvels, obviously many probably have still got similar style, but this probably would look quite old-fashioned now. People would look at it and go. So if they brought out another one of these sort of books, and there's another lovely bit there, see a bit of Silver Surfer, and just great to see the pages, obviously the penciling of the Silver Surfer pages, obviously not inked, but you've got obviously the ones there as well, obviously earlier. And it's still great to see behind the scenes of how the work is done. And there's a bit about, obviously, Nova, obviously classic Nova cover there. And you've also got about inking. Now, of course, a lot of these things, because, of course, computing, there's no mention at all of computing. So a lot of this stuff, maybe you might just do in things like Illustrator. You'd use Painter or Clip Studio Paint, those sort of things. So there's a lot of things that obviously have changed. And also, there's examples in here, and this is basically minor criticism. It's not, because John Buscema is an amazing artist. He was amazing. But it's sort of, obviously, like I say, it's one person's way of doing it, and the inking is likewise. Basically, you can see the style of inking. Obviously, Gene Colan there. It's not always just all Buscema. But you've got some examples here, and this is the case in point. You've got this lovely one here. You've got Magneto and obviously the Submariner story, coming Fantastic Four, one of those issues. And you've got the example underneath, and it's just saying about the changes. And then you've got a really example on the other page, which is very, very dark inking. Personally, I have no problem with that one. Absolutely no problem with any of those. And then the next page, it shows another example where it's basically did not get enough variety in the lines, and he's just drawn it very, very basic, so with no feeling of thick and thin. But however, I have no problem with that. And if you coloured that in a particular way, you probably wouldn't even notice the difference. So it's a lot of colouring and all those sort of things. It could maybe change the page completely. And also another example there, and it's so on and so on. It's like layouts, positions of characters. Everyone has a different approach. But it's, of course, great to learn some of the basics, and this is what this book is. It's just learning the basics, how to... Because there's no point in, as I keep getting told by my singing instructor, no point in trying to run before you can obviously even sort of crawl across the ground, because basically, I do think that, I can do that, I can sing this, but it's not always possible. And it's likewise with drawing. I mean, I love drawing. I've been drawing since the age of 2, and it's just, to me, sketch off stuff, and I love doing that. But I guess if you're just coming along, it's nice to learn, and this is a great behind the scenes how to do all these sort of things. And I'm still learning now. I go to various arts and things, and I'm just, people show something, and you think, wow, that's a great way of doing it. It's something I just hadn't thought about, even though I've been doing it for quite a while, drawing, painting, etc. Just come in, you think, oh, that's a good approach. So you can always learn. So these books, I think, just brilliant. So it's, there's vast numbers of these similar books. Brilliant one, Will Eisner's book, similar sort of thing with showing how to sequential art comes to mind. The title, I haven't looked at it recently, and many others. Scott McCloud's, of course, Understanding Comics comes to mind, and of course, there's loads and loads of ones devoted to manga and many, many others. So, but this one is definitely, and this is, I think, one of the earliest ones I recall coming out, how to draw comics. Probably were early ones, but this, I remember at the time, I thought, wow, how to draw comics the Marvel way. Very, very useful. So, totally recommend your book.